Good evening and welcome into the Pacers Podcast Show. I'm Kyle Newman, your host, and Rhett Hensley, my co-host, is out tonight. He came down with the flu. Poor guy. Hopefully he will get well soon and will be back with me next Wednesday night by 7:30 Eastern Time. I have a great lineup for the next half hour. I will discuss the Pacers' last two games, talk about Frank Vogel's milestone in Pacers franchise history, and talk about Indiana's upcoming games. So the first game, back on February 27th, the Pacers took on Cleveland and won again for the second time in a row, getting the win 93-86. To take a 2-1 season series lead against the Cavs. This was a game of runs, with Indiana overcoming an early 13-point deficit. The Pacers were led by Rodney Stuckey with 19, but George Hill's first career triple-double was the main story. 15 points, 10 rebounds, and 12 assists. C.J. Miles added 13, and David West had 12. Now, the Cavs were without LeBron, who had a sore back, and Kyrie Irving, who had a left shoulder injury. J.R. Smith led the Cavs with 21 points, followed by Kevin Love with 17. Matthew Dellavedova and Iman Shumpert each had 14 for the Cavs. This was another FloJo jersey night, which the Pacers are now 3-0 on the season when wearing these throwback jerseys. The Cavs have now lost 10 straight regular season games at Indiana. The final regular season matchup between these two teams will be March 20th at Cleveland. Really, the story of this game was George Hill, though, recording his first career triple-double. What an amazing feat. He has really been playing well lately for the Pacers. And this was a game where, even without LeBron and Kyrie Irving out, this Cleveland team is a very deep team. And they have players now that they've traded for Iman Shumpert and J.R. Smith. They add them into the mix. Then you still have Kevin Love, who played. You've got Timothy Mozgov, who has been playing out of his mind, being the big man down low for them. So this team is a very deep team. And then even Matthew Dellavedova comes out and gives the Cavs 14. So they have multiple players that can come in and step up for them. You had to figure they wanted revenge for the last close victory that the Pacers pulled out in Bankers Life Fieldhouse. And Indiana was ready to play. I mean, it really is as simple as that. I'm impressed with how Indiana has played in their last several games. Doesn't matter who their opponent is. They are a poised basketball team itching to get back to the playoffs once again in the clustered East in the run for the 7th and 8th seed. They're playing great basketball, and they are starting to get it together at home, taking care of business as they should. I'm just very impressed that they have now taken a 2-1 season series lead against a team who many are picking to be the NBA champions this year. So, great win, even without LeBron and Kyrie. It's still impressive. It's still a win nonetheless. So the Pacers have to feel good about how they started off this past week. Their second game, a few days later, came against the Philadelphia 76ers. On March 1st, in the final matchup of the year between these two teams, Indiana gets the W, 94-74, to win the season series against Philly 3-1. George Hill, once again, had a great game. He led Indiana with 17, followed by Luis Scola with 15. Roy Hibbert had 14 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 blocks. That was his 14th double-double of the season. I don't think I ever remember Roy Hibbert getting 15 rebounds. I tried to look up a statistic to see what his career high in rebounds is. I couldn't find it, but I don't remember him ever getting 15 rebounds. That just goes to show how rare that is. He only averages about 7 per game for the 7'2" big man. So it was great to see him come out and really dominate, played great defense, had a good offensive, productive game. So I was impressed with Roy Hibbert. For the Sixers, Robert Covington led the way with 12, followed by Ish Smith with 11. Nerlens Noel had 10 points and 12 rebounds. The Pacers took the early lead in this one and really never looked back. Even though Philly wouldn't quit and kept it close for a while, Indiana won a game they know they needed to win. And again, a W is a W. You know, this was kind of a game where Indiana really had control the whole way, but the Sixers are a young, resilient team, and they have a lot of good young players, including Nerlens Noel, who, when he bulks up, is going to be an Anthony Davis in this league, I think. Great young player out of Kentucky, and he has big games for them just about every night he is on the court. But the trade with Michael Carter-Williams really hurt this team. So they are in rebuilding mode once again. But they have some good young pieces that in the next few years, if they can draft well, I think they will be right in the mix in the East, especially because the East is not very strong. So the Pacers got a win tonight that they needed to win. Again, good win. They are on a roll. It is exciting for the Pacers, and 2 straight wins at home. So again, they are taking care of their home court, which is very important as you approach this final stretch of the NBA season. Before I get to the next segment, I have a soundbite of Frank Vogel. I think you guys will enjoy this. Take a listen.
We haven't had answers for our defense in 3 games. Okay? All the excitement, all the energy, and they're taking contested jump shots over our defense, but they can't paint. Stick guard principle. Every time they come in here, they're not shooting. They're throwing it back out. They want to live by the jump shot. They're getting fouled for these playoffs. As soon as we saw the Birdman miss a shot, that's when we know we're taking it serious. You got Lance. They've won 3 of the last 13 quarters. They've won 3 in the last 13. Okay, we won 8, and there's been 2 ties. And now look, we got to win the second quarter. Okay, win the second quarter. Going into halftime with the lead. So we got to get the boss. Okay, it's all he does is shoot jump shots. Okay, so we got to honor that and push up on him. No more jumpers for him. Do our defensive fundamentals, execute the drops, make their small score over our bigs, stunt the steal. Who's going to get me the next stunt to steal? Who's going to get me the next steal? Which play is going to get it under 10? Which one? Which extra pass is going to get it under 10? Which attacking drive, like we saw in the edit before the game started, is going to set up an offensive rebound and get it under 10? Which deflection on defense is going to get an outlet into a break that's going to get it under 10. You guys are a beast on D. Okay, you can shut them down. I've seen you guys all year. Shut defenses down. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Hey.
That sums up Frank Vogel in a nutshell for the Indiana Pacers. He is a great coach, great motivational guy. The players really look up to him and really get along with him well. I really love how Frank Vogel has led this team since he has been here. It's really impressive to me, especially with how he had to rebuild this team when he took over 5 years ago. He's a great coach, and this year in particular, and I know Rhett and I talked about it on last week's show, but Frank Vogel this year has the most technicals in the NBA from head coaches, and that's what I love about this guy. He has fire in his belly. You know, at first, Pacers fans, when he came in, he seemed like a shy guy, quiet, doesn't get fired up very easily, just calm and collective. But no, Frank Vogel, when he needs to, will get on his guys. He will get on the officials or the other team to protect his guys and stand up for them whenever. And it's just very impressive to me, the job he's done at Indiana. So you look at this team this year, different from his previous years where he had them rising high and leading the East. This year, a struggling year without Paul George and Lance Stevenson gone, a couple new faces in, and struggling up to the All-Star break, several games under 500, and he won't let this team quit. And he keeps their spirits high. He wants to keep them optimistic because this Indiana team can make the playoffs and is right there once again. With the win last Friday against the Cavs, Frank Vogel is now the winningest coach in Pacers franchise history since they joined the NBA in 1976, getting his 191th win. What an impressive stat for a guy in 5 years is now the winningest coach in the Pacers NBA franchise history. 191 wins. His record is now 191 and 134 in 5 years. Now, Bob Slick Leonard technically has the most wins in Pacers franchise history with 529. But this is between the ABA and the NBA. The great Larry Brown had 190 wins. Some of these coaches that Frank Vogel passed were legendary players and great coaches. It's extremely impressive. Again, Larry Brown, the great Larry Brown, who coached all of those great Reggie Miller teams in the 90s, had 190 wins, which is who Vogel just passed. Other great coaches and former players that Vogel passed include Rick Carlisle with 181 wins, who I really loved to watch coach, and he's still doing it today with the Dallas Mavericks and won an NBA championship with them. But he coached Reggie Miller on the latter part of his career, and I thought that he did a great job with us. 181 wins he had. Larry Bird had 147. The Hick from French Lick, president of basketball operations currently for the Pacers. Great coach for the Pacers as well. Great player in his career. One of the greatest of all times. And then Isaiah Thomas had 131 wins. The great Isaiah Thomas for those bad boy Pistons. Another good coach. Had a successful career here in Indiana. Vogel took over Jim O'Brien halfway through the 2010 season. Jim O'Brien had 121 wins here. He didn't have as much success. He wasn't a sexy coach by any means, but he also took over a time when Rick Carlisle had left, and there was a lot of problems in Indiana, from the Malice in the Palace back in 2004, right at the end of Reggie Miller's career. A lot of Pacers fans turned away from this team. The city was disappointed in this team. They were seen as the thug team and lost a lot of fans, a lot of attendance. So he had to try and rebuild the Pacers. And quite frankly, he did a good job getting them to the point where when Frank Vogel took over in 2010 as interim head coach, when O'Brien was fired, had done a good job getting Frank Vogel to the point where now you have a team that you can rebuild here. He left him with the pieces. Again, this was a team that had been very poor since Reggie Miller retired in 2005. Vogel played a big role in turning around this team by rebuilding it. Paul George was drafted number 10 overall in the first round in 2010. Lance Stevenson was drafted number 40 overall in the second round in 2010. Hibbert was in his third year with the Pacers in 2010. George Hill and David West were added to this team in 2011, and the core team was set. I love the passion Vogel brings to this team, and his guys really seem to respect him as a coach. As I mentioned earlier, I think he is a great coach. In his 5 years at Indiana, Vogel has led this team to the playoffs each year. Let's start when he first took over as interim head coach in the 2010-2011 season. Finished 8th in the Central, 37-45. Lost to the Bulls in the first round, 4-1. But already showed the impact he had coming in halfway through the season that year, and competing against a very good Derrick Rose Bulls team that was on the rise. Again, the Bulls were the 1 seed that year, had the home court advantage. I remember that series. The Pacers fought hard. I remember going to a game. It was an awesome environment. It's always a good rivalry match between the Bulls and the Pacers. A lot of Pacers fans started to believe in this Indiana team and this Frank Vogel head coach. This guy. They liked this guy. On to the next season, 2011-2012. Went from 8th seed the year before to the 3rd seed in the East. Finished 42-24. Won their first round playoff matchup against the Orlando Magic 4-1. And then the rivalry playoff series started with the Miami Heat. Lost in the conference semifinals to Miami 4-2. This was a huge stepping stone for Frank Vogel and set the next couple of years to come. A phenomenal season that year. How about in 2012-2013 season? Finished 49-32 on the year. Won the first round matchup against the Atlanta Hawks 4-2. Won the conference semifinals against the New York Knickerbockers. Those rivals, those guys, 4-2. But once again lost the conference finals to the Miami Heat in 7 games. Oh, so close were the Pacers to going back to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2000 with Reggie Miller. Frank Vogel, again, getting this team improved each year with wins, advancing in the playoffs each year. Just phenomenal. Paul George, by the way, was the most improved player in 2012-2013. How about last year? 2013-2014 season. Finished first in the East. 56-win season. 56-26. They won their first round matchup against the Atlanta Hawks 4-3. That was a tough 7-game series. That would have been a big opening round matchup, but they hung on. They were poised. Frank Vogel didn't let this team quit and give in to all of the hype of an upset happening. Then they won the conference semifinals against the Washington Wizards in 6 games. Again, another very tough team, tough series, and a much improved team, the Wizards are. And then once again, for the third straight year, lost in the conference finals to those darn Miami Heat. Florida Heat, 4-2. But Frank Vogel, it's pretty clear he has done a great job with the Pacers. They are in good hands going forward. By the way, he just signed a multi-year contract with Indiana. The details have not been disclosed, but Vogel has Indiana 25-34, right in the thick of the playoff race in the East once again, currently in the 9th seed, half a game back from Brooklyn and Charlotte in the 8th seed, and only 1 game back from the Heat in the 7th seed. Indiana has won 8 of their last 11 games. They are hot, folks. Beating good teams, beating bad teams, it doesn't matter. They are getting W's. That's what matters. So let's take a look here in the last segment at Indiana's upcoming games. Later tonight, Indiana will take on the Knicks at home. In fact, that game is just about to start as we speak. But Indiana is 1-0 against the Knicks this season with that win at Bankers Life back on January 29th, 103-82. Stuckey was the top performer of the night with 22 points. Hibbert added 18. The Knicks were led by none other than Melo with 18 points. Lou Amundsen, the ex-Pacer, contributed 17. This game was in control by the Pacers the whole way. With Melo out for the year now, I expect Indiana to crush this poor Knicks team. Again, as Rhett and I talked about on last week's show, this team is just pathetic. Melo is out. The team is not playing together. They did get a big win the other night after they found out that Anthony Mason, their ex-Knick, great player for New York, had actually passed away, sadly. So hearts and prayers out with his family. But this team is just not a good team. This is a game, again, like the Sixers, that Indiana just should not lose, especially being at home. They really should win this convincingly. It should be more like the first matchup. I expect a 20-point victory-ish. So, Indiana, expect them to beat the Knicks tonight. Now, March 6th, a bit of a tougher game than they've had these past few games. Against Chicago at home. Indiana is 1-1 against the Bulls this season. In the first matchup, back on November 15th, at the United Center, the Pacers grabbed a big win, 99-90. Indiana was led by 3 different players with 21 points. Luis Scola, Solomon Hill, and A.J. Price, who played in 10 games before being released. The ex-Pacer, now the ex-Pacer. The Bulls were led by Jimmy Butler with 32, followed by Kirk Heinrich with 15. Now the Pacers had a few players out, to say the least. The Pacers were without David West, George Hill, C.J. Miles, Rodney Stuckey, and a couple other of players. The Bulls were without Derrick Rose. In the second matchup of the year on December 29th, at Indiana, the Pacers fell in a close game, 92-90, down to the wire. Jimmy Butler led all scorers with 27. Pau Gasol added 20, and Rose had 17. For the Pacers, Copeland led the way with 17. C.J. Miles and George Hill each added 11. With Rose out for this third matchup, I expect this game to resemble the first matchup, with the Pacers winning at home by about 10 points. Indiana will meet Chicago one final time in the regular season on March 18th at the United Center. Again, it should be a very good matchup, but I do expect the Pacers to get a double-digit victory as they are on a roll as of late, and Derrick Rose being out. And they have had a couple other injuries as well the last couple of games. I expect the Pacers to get a big division win against the rival Bulls. Jumping ahead, just 3 days later on March 7th, the Pacers will play the Knicks again. This time at Madison Square Garden. I expect this game to be a little closer since it is on the road, and because I think we will crush them at home on the 4th, which will have New York coming out with revenge on their minds. However, I still see Indiana winning by about 12 points, I will say. Again, this mellow-less team is just plain bad. The Pacers will meet the Knicks one more time this season on April 8th at New York. So, a game, again, Indiana should not lose. I think it will be a little closer, but nonetheless, they should get another W and continue their great role. I think after these next few games, they will solidly be in that 8th seed, if not in the 7th by then, with all the injuries the Miami Heat are going through, mainly with Chris Bosh. That really hurts them. Their last game before next week's show, March 10th, at home, back at Bankers Life, against the Magic. This is the final matchup of the year between Indiana and Orlando. The Pacers are 2-0 against the Magic this season. In the first matchup, on November 28th, at home, the Pacers took care of business with a 98-83 win. Rodney Stuckey led all scorers with 24 points. David West added 18 for the Pacers. Orlando was led by Nikola Vucevic with 16 points, followed by Tobias Harris and Victor Oladipo, the ex-Hoosier, with 14 points each. In the second matchup of the season, on January 25th at Orlando, the Pacers won another one, 106-99. David West led the Pacers with 20, followed by nice bench production from Damjan Rudez with 18 points and George Hill with 17. Nikola Vucevic led the way for the Magic with 27, followed by Victor Oladipo with 18. I expect Indiana to get this win at home, but in a similar game to the last matchup, winning by about 6 points, I will say. This Magic team is young, they're in rebuilding mode, but they play hard, and they've played hard all year against good teams as well, and they're only 5 or 6 games back from the 8th seed as well, so this is a big game for Indiana to take care of at home. The last thing you want as you are trying to make a run for the playoff push is to give up a full game swing against a team, especially a team you should beat. So at home, look for the Pacers to keep winning in great fashion. That is it for this week's show. Miss my buddy Rhett Hensley tonight. I hope he gets well soon and will be back with me next Wednesday to recap what was talked about on the show. I discussed the Pacers' last 2 games, talked about Frank Vogel's milestone in Pacers franchise history, and talked about Indiana's upcoming games. Thank you for tuning into the show. Feel free to leave any comments and feedback. We will be back at it next Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern Time. I'm Kyle Newman. Get well soon, Rhett Hensley,